Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. Matthew 2, verses 1 through 12. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way. And the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Epiphany Sunday. It's traditionally the day we remember the coming of the Magi to worship Jesus. And we've just sung the first Noel and We Three Kings, and we sang all the verses, so we really should have this story down, right? This is one part of Jesus' birth that we really don't have a solid picture of, because Matthew's telling of these details is the only version of this part of the story. We don't know how many wise men there were, and we can only figure out when and where they might have visited Jesus based on other parts of the narrative and an understanding of Jewish tradition from other sources aside from the Bible. So piecing it all together, this is what we really can glean from this. The Magi came to visit Jesus sometime after his presentation in the temple, and that would have occurred around 40 days after he was born. This time of 40 days was for Mary's purification, so she could be in the temple during the naming ceremony. We don't know, like I said, how many Magi there were or where they came from. Magi means magician or astronomer, but it never means king. There are 3 gifts cited in the scripture, so we traditionally assign 3 kings, but that doesn't mean that there are 3 visitors. There may have been more than 3. There may have been less than 3. The tradition of the names and races and countries of origin of the kings wasn't identified until various Roman Catholic writings in 500 to 700 AD. But now they are kind of presented as a matter of tradition. The way this whole part of the story evolves over the centuries makes me wonder that if I could travel in the TARDIS with Doctor Who, and some of you will get that time travel reference, but if I could travel 1,000 years into the future and visit a Christian church, the nativity I might see might include the little drummer boy and Santa Claus. But at the time of the visit, Matthew says Jesus was a child and was not still an infant in the manger, so more like a toddler. Matthew says the Magi followed the star, but he doesn't say that they followed Herod's directions. Herod told them to go to Bethlehem, but by the time they arrived in Jerusalem to meet with Herod, Joseph would have probably already returned to Nazareth to be with his family. The Magi visited before Jesus was 2 years old. Matthew Matthew says that after the Magi left, Mary and Joseph and Jesus went to Egypt because Herod was out to kill Jesus. Now, you might think that they fled from Jerusalem because that's where Herod was going to kill all the children, and yes, Herod did that. But even so, God warns Joseph in the dream, and they're not in Bethlehem. Joseph obeys, and it says he fled Nazareth after the Magi visited them. So from all these little pieces, we can summarize that the Magi visited Jesus in a house in Nazareth when Jesus was around 1. Well, here's the thing. I don't want to get into a theological debate with anyone about this. I mean, I just accept that God made Jesus' birth known to many people, and that God gave those same people an understanding of why Jesus' birth was so important. So I accept that Jesus was honored and revered by people from many different cultures and many different walks of life and many different backgrounds, just as he is today. And as far as the kings or the magi or the wise men, whatever you want to call them, when they visited Jesus is less important to me than that they visited Jesus. And that they worshiped Christ, and they brought gifts that in that time would have been very valuable and worthy of a king. Gold for its monetary value, and its wealth associated always with kings. Frankincense as a perfume and a symbol of deity. Myrrh, which is used in embalming. So we just sang We Three Kings, and that last verse, glorious now behold him arise, King and God and sacrifice. King, the gold, God, the frankincense, the deity, myrrh, the sacrifice. The thing that I believe that we are meant to realize and to take away from the Epiphany story and the Nativity story in general is that Jesus was worshipped by both common shepherds and wealthy scholars. And each one who came before him came with a gift. The shepherds came with their faith and their obedience and their willingness to go out and testify. The Magi brought their tangible gifts. And they also brought protection for Jesus. So for us today, you know I'm going to ask this. What is our gift to Jesus? What can we think of individually? Yes, and we need to do that, but something happened to me this week, like it always does, and it made me think of this broader picture of what does the Westby United Methodist Church bring as a gift to Jesus? Okay. So you know I've kind of kept you up to date on the saga of Rusty, my Baltimore Oriole, who's been wintering with me, okay? Rusty still comes for breakfast and dinner and cocktails at the heated bird bath that I have where he gets a drink every afternoon. Now on December 27th, you'll remember that we had a horrible rainstorm. And that day, here's little Rusty in this bird feeder that I got, and he's sitting out there. He hung out there most of the day, just kind of hunkered down to protect from the rain. And those cups had, well, they were kind of filling up with water, but they had jam and mealworms and so forth. He was there so long that I took a lot of pictures of him, you know, because, I mean, he's like that far outside my window, right? So it's not, I have to take pictures, right? And, you know, I kind of love this picture, so I decided I would send it to the Duncraft people where I bought this feeder, okay? I don't know why I thought I would do that. I just thought, well, okay, that would be a cool thing to do, right? So maybe because they're birding people, maybe they would be excited about this Oriole, right? And I told them the story about how this bird has an injured wing and didn't migrate with the rest of the flock and you know, whatever. So a few hours later, I get this reply back from the customer service manager. And they are so excited about Rusty in this story. And they asked if they could use Rusty's picture on their social media. And they wanted my permission. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And then she said, and we're sending Rusty a care package. Okay. Now here's the thing. I just had a couple of emails with this woman, but she was so empathetic and so excited about being a fellow birder and how unusual it was to have an oriole in cold climate. So the next day I get this email from their shipping department, and they sent that package to Rusty in care of Pam Harkema. So first of all, it may be necessary for Rusty to now have his own Facebook page. He's just becoming so popular, right? But honestly, do you think that they have won a customer for life? I mean, not because they sent a package, they sent a gift. They sent Rusty a gift, you know? Here it is. It wasn't just like some little thing either. I mean, this box was completely filled with, and here it says right on the box, Rusty Care of Pam Harkema. They sent me this big jam thing, and they sent me mealworms with dried fruit in it. It was all wrapped up in bubble wrap. I mean, it was awesome. Yes?
Yeah, why would they tell infant Jesus that he was going to die? Or that baby Jesus had a responsibility even as a very young being? Why?
You know, I'm not really sure how to answer that right now. Can we talk about it afterwards? Okay? All right, good. Thank you. All right, so I'm probably going to keep this box forever just because it's just so special to me. But here's the thing. And this is what kind of got me, like, let's put this into perspective. What this woman did, and what we all hope that we get from any customer service interaction. When we call customer service, we want them, probably we call because we want them to fix a problem, right? And we want them to empathize with us as a customer. Now, there wasn't a problem to be fixed here, but what she did, she saw my perspective, she shared my joy, she shared my concern, my enthusiasm, my wonder, my awe. She did not say, you need to buy all of these additional products. She didn't say, you're doing it wrong. She offered me a couple of ideas of some fruit that I might cut up. I'd already done that, but you know, whatever. But she gave me the best gift that anybody can ever give another person. She cared. She cared about something that was exciting to me. So what does that have to do with Epiphany and the wise men? Epiphany is, by definition, this great revealing of some new perspective. So here's the epiphany for today. Let's you and I think about that same attitude of that great customer service manager, and let's apply it to Westby United Methodist Church. A person or a family comes in our door, and they come in for the first time, and it, you know, Dad and Steve and the kids, they came from a Methodist tradition, but it was unusual for them to just walk in, okay? So what do? We welcome them, right? We hopefully make them feel comfortable, but you know, if we're going to do it like the great customer service manager, we just are excited and we listen to them. We listen to their stories. We don't say, "Oh, here's a whole list of all the things you can do with us. Would you like to be on the ad board?" You know, and that's sometimes the way that a new visitor gets approached, right? We didn't do anything except say, we are glad you're here and we want you to worship in the love and spirit of Jesus Christ. That's what we need to do. We accept people, we share the love of God with them. And it can be tricky to know how to do this because, let's face it, in the greeting time, some people like to be hugged. Other people don't. Some people like to stay on the fringe and just kind of listen, and other people want to be the center of the conversation. But the big idea here, when we meet people where they are, when we accept who they are and we welcome them as they are, and we share their joys and their sorrows, that's the true gift that we can give another person. And when we do that, we are giving a gift to Jesus Christ. We can't go to the manger to worship Jesus. We can't go to Nazareth or wherever the Magi went to customer service manager did for poor little Rusty. All right, maybe that's too simple of a lesson for today, but I guarantee you, you're going to remember Rusty. And it's going to sink in why I brought that up today. It struck me so powerfully. It was just something that I felt like I had to share, because God places every experience before us as an opportunity to learn, to serve, to practice, and yes, to bring ourselves as a gift to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So where will we shine the light of Christ? Blessings in this Epiphany. Amen. Invite our usher to receive our gift.